What's going on, you guys? Come on in. We're about to start another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. It's how you can engage in the past content that we do on this here show. So go to JimmyRants.com. You see the past episodes. We also put all these on YouTube. So go check out YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You'll find the show there. And then if you want to engage live in the content, we do go live on Instagram Live. I simulcast on Facebook Live. So thank you all for being here. I'm at Livin' Low Carb Man over on Instagram. So go follow me, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. And we do a fun show here, guys. The show is called Jimmy Rants. I sometimes get criticism. I don't want to watch somebody rant at me. I'm like, have you ever watched the show? No, I just don't want somebody to rant at me. I'm like, watch the friggin' show. It's just a name. But I wanted to do something a little bit different here today. Because this social isolation that we're doing right now, the social distancing, has kept people indoors, has kept people in their homes. Maybe you're working from home. Maybe this is your first time getting a taste of what it feels like to work from home. And maybe it's whetting your appetite to do something you never imagined you would actually do. And that is start a brand, start a podcast, or start a business. So if you have any aspirations to do any of those things, I want to hear from you because I want to help you. Now, what you may or may not know is behind the scenes, I've been doing this for well over a decade. I know at least, it's got to be 75 to 100 podcasts that I helped inspire people to start, helped them with the branding of it. I usually was their very first guest on there. So if you got a podcast idea and you want to see what I think about it, I'm more than happy to give you my feedback. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Regardless, I'm going to be honest with you and I will be blunt with you. If you've got an idea for a name, I could certainly help refine that on the spot. I do it literally all the time for people. So let me help you there. If you have an idea for a business, maybe a product or a service that you want to offer and you want to say, is there a market for this? What can we do? Talk about that as well. And then brand name. Like a lot of times people want to know, how do you make a cool branding? I'll tell you briefly my story. So after I lost 180 pounds on the Atkins diet in 2004, I was coming up in my head, not for branding. I just wanted to create a blog, but I needed a name for the blog. Now, little did I know when I created the name of that blog that I was actually creating a branding that would still be my branding to this day. So when I was looking for branding, I needed something, and this is kind of the secret sauce of branding. I needed something that would catch people's attention. I needed something that would be fun because that's my personality. It's what I try to exude with what I do. And then I needed them to know exactly what I do. So when I heard Ricky Martin playing on the radio and I live in La Vida Low Carb, oh my gosh, and it just hit me. Livin' La Vida Low Carb was the epitome of all that. It catches your attention because you laugh about it because you think of a Ricky Martin song. It's funny and fun because you hear that song dun, 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 when you see that. In fact, I did a speaking gig one time and they did like music for people as they were going on the stage. And when I came on the stage, they were playing Livin' La Vida Low. And then the last thing, Livin' La Vida Low Carb, you know that blog or whatever the branding is about someone who is living the low carb life. So it hit on all cylinders, all of those branding things. Now, when I came up with that, it was stupid dumb luck because I had no marketing background. I had no nothing when it came to that, but that's the branding and how it came about. And to this day, I'm known as the guy behind Livin' La Vida Low Carb. Of course, over time, my name became a brand as well. So people know my name and they equate it with low carb and keto. Keto Clarity, which is probably my most well-known book, is also another branding. So branding yourself could take on various forms, and I'm happy to help you with that. So if you got an idea, hey, this is a cool brand. I want to try to like hone into something. Run it by me. I'm happy to help you. Of course, in the podcasting realm, people often will say, oh, I want to create a podcast. What's it about? Oh, I don't know. I just want to talk behind the microphone. I'm like, you need to have some kind of focus. Like, what are you trying to do with it? What's your central message? And then sometimes people will come up with names. I don't want to call any out because some of them are my friends, but they have lame-o names. Oh, so lame names. Please come up with something more exciting. And sometimes it's even generic. It's almost cliche. Your health and wellness podcast for life. And I'm like, that doesn't tell me anything about you. Like literally stand out. What are you going to say that makes you stand out? But let's talk about that. And then business, I had a friend here, Beth, earlier was talking about when I was teasing this, say, hey, I've got this idea to do a keto conference and I don't know what to do. And so I got lots of ideas. If Beth, you're on here, I'm going to definitely talk to you. So let's get right to you because I have a feeling a lot of you do have some ideas. And this is going to be like a little roundtable session. I'm just going to brainstorm with you on your idea. Please bring your idea, be as complete with it as you can. So when I'm reading it, I can give you full response. So let's see what you guys have to say. Who is going to be first? Buy me something, I'm broke. Danielle, start your own business and you can buy your own something. Beth says, I'm going to need more than an hour. Yeah. Jess says, I sent you an email. Check it out after. Thank you. Linda, hello again. I'm not going to be doing this, but I thought it would be really interesting to tune in. Anyway, you never know. You know what? I don't think anybody that ever creates a business ever expects to create a business. A lot of the best businesses out there happen by accident. Like I said, when I started Living La Vida Low Carb, I was never expecting to like trademark it, which I have. I was never expecting to make it into a brand, but it became that. It was just a name that I was going to use for a blog to talk about my weight loss success using a low carb diet. That was it. Never intended to work for it to become a brand, but it only became a brand because there was so much interest in the work I was doing. And once I had interest, then I had people that wanted to buy into it as a sponsor and start talking and putting ads on various outlets. And it just grows from there. So Beth says, I've had this big event idea since before you left on sabbatical, no idea where to start. So Beth is talking about her idea to bring a keto conference to Florida, which I think is a great idea, Beth. I can tell you most of the keto conferences that the big boys in this space in keto, they all came to me first. Low Carb USA started, they came to me and they said, we need help finding speakers. So your biggest challenge right away is, and it might be a little bit hard now because of the coronavirus thing, but finding speakers and getting a quality lineup. If you don't get people in the lineup that people will want to come out here, then you're just spinning your wheels. So that's your first and foremost. Develop those relationships with those speakers that you think could add value and bring butts to seats, okay? So obviously you want to kind of gauge interest with who the speakers would be. I will warn you, don't go for big boys like Gary Taubes necessarily. He's going to want a lot of money. Jason Fung is going to want a lot of money. Eric Westman's going to want a lot of money. You've got to find those people that you think you can get on the cheap. Not that they're not worth money, but there will be some people that would be willing to come for a very reduced fee. So you just have to gauge that. But be careful about aiming too big. People are like, get Mark Hyman, get this person, that. And I'm like, okay, slow your roll. You can ask them, but I know right off the bat, Gary Taubes is going to want $25,000. I know Eric Westman's going to want $15,000. I know Jason Fung's going to want $20,000. That's just the reality, you guys. I've been given pay, much less than those people, for my services to speak. It's just kind of the reality. So you also want to assess, am I going to set a budget for this? And so what's the budget? If the budget is $100,000, then you need to estimate how many people can I get in some venue, and how much do I need to charge from those people that will offset the cost of the venue and paying for speaker. At the very bare minimum, you've got to pay for speakers' flight in and out. You got to give them a daily stipend for food, lodging while they're there, and if you can, give them some kind of a cash stipend as a thank you. Again, the big boys you may not be able to afford, but you can get some middle of the range known name people to come out. Then finding the venue and how many people that venue can hold. I remember Low Carb USA, when they came to me to do the conference, they wanted 1,000 people the first year. And I was like, 1,000 people? Like the biggest one at that point was maybe 400 people. They ended up getting right around 600 people, which was very impressive for their very first time out. And of course, they've taken off since then. Keto Con was the same way. I was a part of the planning committee for the first year at Keto Con. Low Carb Houston, I also helped with that one. Low Carb Denver started off as Low Carb Vail. And of course, I do an event every year called the Low Carb Cruise. And so I've got a lot of fingers in all these conferences that are out there now that are popular. But to make yours happen, Beth, you definitely need to secure who you think, kind of get feelers, who you think could come, and get at least 2-3 big names, and then go after a few lesser known names that you like and enjoy. And then I would encourage you to find a venue that would fit that number of people, and then just figure out cost analysis, what it's going to cost to charge for the ticket. And are you going to do a one-day conference? Are you doing a weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday conference? All of those things go into this. It can be a little bit overwhelming to do it by yourself, so I definitely would encourage you to get a team of people there in Florida who would want to help you organize it. You also want to try to put together a list of volunteers who would help you as well. All of these are the secrets to success of creating a keto conference. So I hope that stuff helps you out. All right, if you're just joining us, we are talking about your business ideas. Do you have a business idea? Do you have this brand idea you've been dying to talk about? Have you always wanted to start a podcast and see how you do with that, and whether it's a dumb idea, a good idea? I'm here to help you today. This is a part of, like, we've been holed up in our houses and maybe you've been thinking about these things more. Let me help you vet out whatever your idea is, and I'm more than happy to share my experience. Kai says it's a bit hard to spell Livin' La Vida Low Carb. No, do it just like Livin' La Vida Loca, except replace the word loca with low carb. So pretty easy. You're very talented, Jimmy. Thank you, Yellow-Eyed One. I try to be. I try to share the wisdom that I've learned. Like, for the longest time, a total vulnerable moment here. For the longest time, mostly in my 20s, I felt like I had a lot of talents to share in the companies I was working for, but they never tapped into my talent. Like, they never realized my brain thought in marketing. And I applied for some marketing jobs, and because I did not go to school for marketing, the people that did go to school for marketing got the jobs. But I always felt like my brain was on hyperdrive of thinking of ideas and refining ideas. So when the time came that I went to work for myself, I was like, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to see if all this like talent that I think I have actually is going to be something. And I think I turned out okay. AD Keto says, podcast prep has been going for a bit. I've got 10 episodes in the can with spots that I have for potential sponsors. Response has been lukewarm, slow, especially recently. Thank you, Aaron. Yes. Can I encourage you to do something? And I know it's going to probably not be in your model of what you had hoped. Don't go for sponsors on day one. You've got 10 episodes in the can. What I encourage you to do is use this time, probably the first 25 episodes, to let your audience get to know who you are. Before you air the first ad, that would be like a sponsorship, say with the F-Bomb people, before, or Keto Chow or any of these other companies. Before you air the first ad, let them get to know who you are. And you do a great job of that on your videos, and the charmingness, and people kind of get to know you. I didn't have an ad on the Living La Vida Low Carb show for 2 years. Now, of course, it was a different time. I started in 2006. The iPhone wasn't even invented yet. So, but I made the decision, I want to build content that would be curated and people would start to love the show. And then once they love the show, then you've got eyeballs, earballs as I call them, to your content. Then is when you have the sponsors come in. Because what a sponsor's going to want to know is, okay, how many people, how many downloads do you have? Well, if you haven't aired any podcast yet, you don't have that data. Now, maybe you can lowball them on an amount they pay you, but at that point, you're cheapening your product so that then those people become your core sponsors. You already give them the expectation that they're going to expect a lower price. Even though you tell them your viewers and listeners has gone up, in their mind, they're like, well, you told me I could do it for $100 in a month. Well, I'm going to expect that every time. So it's to your advantage to wait now, unless you have a need for the money. Wait on that. Build the content. Build your respect from your audience first. And then later, like I said, around 25 episodes in, 30 episodes in, people know you, they trust you, and now they're going to be a lot more receptive to those sponsors that you have. That makes sense? And so you want them to like you first, and then it's that like and trust in you that then gives more gravity to those sponsors you have. It's one thing people tell me, they love to support my sponsors because those are the people that they know I have trust in, I have vetted out. I don't let anybody on my shows, by the way. I get pitched hundreds of things a month. Seriously. I mean, it's just, most of it's just pure garbage out there. And I probably only accept maybe 2-3% of them. And then even then, accept meaning send it to me, let me try it. And then if I try it and I go, yeah, that's not me, I let them go. And so the few that I do have are ones that I've fully vetted out, ones I definitely use myself, ones I would recommend to people. And then because of that trust your audience has in you, then they're willing to spend the money because they're like, well, if it's good enough for Jimmy, then it's good enough for me. And that's how you build those strong bonds. I've got several sponsors that stayed with me for years upon years. And then new ones come in when there's new products that I like, blah, blah, blah. So don't focus right now on getting spots and sponsorships, Aaron. Focus on building your content and your trust with your audience. The keto artist says, what are your pointers for getting over being camera shy? I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm certainly not camera shy. I'm like, okay. At one point I was camera shy. And I first started doing videos back in 2006. I might have even started late 2005. I used to do this show called Living La Vida Low Carb on YouTube. And so that was like my first attempt. And I remember, or I'll go back and look at some of those early videos, and I was so like methodical and theatrical, and it was just horrible. So I think the way you get over being camera shy is you do it. Because it's the repetitiveness of doing it that it becomes familiar. I'll even tell you, when I started the Living La Vida Low Carb Show podcast, I was not good. Again, it was very robotic. Welcome back to the Living La Vida Low Carb Show with Jimmy R. And it was just, I sounded like one of those like circus announcers. It was horrible. But guess what happened? Over time, I got more comfortable. And now I'm incredibly comfortable. I come on Jimmy Rants every single day. I do podcasts. I've done thousands of podcasts now. It gets better over time. So the biggest pointer is just suck it up, get it out there. I think Sometimes people try to overcomplicate this. Oh, I've got to be perfect and I can't flub up my words. Yeah, flub up your words. It's called being human. One of the things that people neglect is they're not looking for perfection in the way you talk. They're not looking for anything more than a connection. So people connect with me because I seem like a real guy. And I am a real guy. That's the ironic part. I am real, very real. Ow, yeah, that pinch hurt. I'm very real. And so if you're real with people, you connect with people. And it's that connection that you're looking for. Now, pointers. Don't go close to the camera. That's number one. I see so many people do videos where they go so close to the camera. It's like, dude, I do not need to see that much facial hair. Or they're so far away from the camera that you can't see or hear them. It's one reason I use these microphones. Definitely all kind of Bluetooth microphones out there. But that helps. If you're going to go on camera as well, try to get you some lights. I've got lights behind my cameras here so that you can see. And try to make it professional. I mean, I think sometimes people get so professional that they forget how to be human. The ones that are the worst for me when they go on camera is you can tell they're sitting in front of a computer screen and they're reading all their notes from their computer and it's so effing distracting. I know it's hard to get on camera and it's hard to have a personality. It's hard to be yourself when you're not used to that. So why don't you practice? You have a smartphone in your hand, just turn on your smartphone and just start talking into it for about 3 minutes. And then go back and watch what you did and how you did. Not being critical of all the little mistakes that you think you made, but to see, hey, would I watch that? Would I be engaged with that? Would that interest me? That's what you got to do. You're not as camera shy as you think you are. And all you need is experience. So get that experience sooner than later. Aaron said he's following up on his thing earlier about his podcast with sponsors, considering just getting it out there, worrying about sponsors later. See, Aaron, you already knew the answer before I even gave my response. Maybe 5 now without sponsors, then see if it's better with the next 5. No. 25 to 30 and then do sponsors. Ilza says, my business is called Living Proof. I like that at face value. It just did not catch on. My weight and life completely changed and I fell into coaching. I need a name. I'm wanting to bring healthy eating to everyone in my province. So Living Proof is not bad. It's a little bit cliche, so just be aware of that. It doesn't tell me that you're wanting to bring healthy eating to everyone in your province. So what is the name of the province? I know you're in South Africa, is that right? So give me a little more details about where you are, what you think your primary mission is. I'll definitely get back with you in a minute, but Living Proof isn't bad, but it doesn't scream at me that you're wanting to bring healthy eating to everyone in your province. So healthy proof, nutrition proof, nutritional living. Give me a little more and I'll certainly help you come up with a name while we're still here. I'm coming to you guys here in a minute, so hang tight, Facebook. Beth wants to know, how do I contact the potential speakers for her conference in Florida without a when and where? Do they name their price or do I offer a price? So, okay, great questions. You could say, I'm working on putting together a conference. You can give a tentative time period. So this coronavirus has messed up like any potential. I had been invited to speak at an event in October. They just canceled theirs in October. So I would highly recommend you want to give yourself some lead time of at least a year. And so if you're wanting to do something and organize it from the very beginning, make sure it's a full year ahead of where you're starting. Now, I know people have done it much faster than that. You don't give yourself enough time to finalize details and to build up momentum, the marketing of it, and all those kinds of things. So at the very minimum, you want to aim for March or April next year. Now, be careful of what's on the calendar at the time. I was asked to speak at the ADAPT event a couple weeks ago in Winchester, Virginia. Well, that same weekend was Low Carb Denver. So if they'd known that there was two conferences that would be talking about the same subject, I don't think they would have butted heads. So be careful seeing where other people are doing theirs so you don't water down like who potentially could come speak at your conference. Then your other question, do they name their price or do I offer a price? You could just say, hey, we're trying to come up with a budget and we see the value in you. We're definitely going to take care of your expenses, your travel expenses, your lodging, and a stipend for some food. And then on top of that, we want to give you an honorarium of, and then you tell them that. Now they might come back and say, well, that's a little bit low. I'd like to have, and then they tell you, and then you determine whether it's worth it to you or not. Mama Ors, I've been thinking about something with the name Faith, Grace, and Low Carb Life. All right, I'm kind of getting a feel for what that means. A podcast or a group just throwing this around. What about having a keto conference with just regular people like us? So, okay, let me back up. Faith, Grace, and Low Carb, and the Low Carb Life. I would put a the after and. Faith, Grace, and the Low Carb Life. It's got a nice ring to it. You can make it a Facebook group. If it's just a bunch of regular people talking about their faith in God, I'm assuming is what you mean, and living in grace, and then you all live low carb, that certainly lends itself to being created into a podcast. So I like that idea, the Faith, Grace, and Low Carb Life podcast. I like it. That's good. All right, so do both, actually. Do the podcast and the group. Make sure you speak articulately, because some people start podcasts just because they like to hear themselves talk, and nobody wants to hear that. I can tell you, I've listened to some podcasts where they just talk like this, and it's so bad. Don't be that podcast. But I don't need you to be so clear in your voice and overly produce the show that it becomes too clean too. I think there's a happy medium, especially if you're trying to have it be just regular people. Be regular people, but don't slur your speech, but don't overly articulate your speech either. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I try to meet that happy balance between being professional but being myself. And it's a tricky balance. Maybe it's something you work on if you're not used to talking behind a microphone. But definitely, I think both could be done. Now, what about having a keto conference with just regular people? Let me tell you the challenge with that. I think that's a great idea in terms of a local meetup. If you want to get together with people that are doing keto, low carb in your area, I think it's okay to kind of do a meetup, but and if you want to kind of make an event for your local group, but don't expect people to fly in from all over the country to your event simply to see a bunch of regular people. And I even hate it that way, because there's so many amazing people with incredible stories, but let's face it, we're a little bit of a American Idol. We want to see stars. We want to see and meet the celebrities. It's just the fact. And so I think you can have regular people within the context of any event that you do, but you need to have a few people that would be a draw. So I know I've spoken at some events where I was one of two people that was the draw, and then they had a bunch of other people. I know Eric Westman has done that. He's been the draw, and then other people that are lesser known people, but incredible stories. So just be careful of only having people that nobody's ever heard of, because nobody will come or pay money to see that. To fix MJ, I will start puppet grams. I don't mind sharing, because the more puppets to bring joy, the better. I will video the puppet so delivery is virtual. I love that idea. Fun fact you don't know about Jimmy Moore. When I was in college, I actually did puppeting because I can manipulate my voice to make kind of funny noises. Okie dokie. Anyway, it's fun. The kids laughed, so I guess I did okay. But that's good. Share the puppets and bring joy, video the puppets so the delivery is virtual. That's great. And definitely right now, I mean, those kind of ideas are so sorely needed just as a distraction. Parents that are frustrated not knowing what to do to entertain their kids. So love it. If you need help coming up with a name, MJ, just let me know. Yellow-eyed says, I always thought my best shot would be selling organic lunches to coworkers. I can't risk that though because it's not allowed on my job. Yeah, it's an idea and I like it. Offering organic lunches. That would be something that you would have to quit your job to put your time into, and then find those businesses. When I was in college, in grad school, I worked for a company in Virginia Beach, Virginia called Corporate Cafe. Now, they didn't offer organic lunches, but what they did was they made sandwiches and chips and juice and Snapple and brownies and all this kind of stuff. And we went with a big cooler full of food to like the car lots and to some of the golf shop, all the kind of local businesses. We all had our own little route. And we'd go around and it would take, 3-4 hours. We'd leave out at like 9 and be back by noon or 1. And you just sold people food. It was called Corporate Cafe. And it was pretty cool. So you could definitely take on a model like that. The problem is you're going to have very low amount of profitability because organic is already going to be more expensive. So then you have to charge an obligate amount above that. And are you going to get any takers? Like you have to kind of take into consideration, okay, is organic what people are looking for? Maybe you make it keto lunches. Maybe you make, okay, I've got keto options, carnivore options, vegan options, and then make those available. It's an idea that's good, but just be careful that you don't price yourself out and you have to price enough to make it profitable or you're never going to get anywhere. Ilza says, you want to be my guest to talk on an interview about low carb and keto, also about the emotional stuff. Yeah, I am more than happy to do that. So please reach out to me. Grass-fed girl, hey Caitlin, speaking of an interview, she did a great interview with me recently. Because you don't have to wear makeup and do your hair. On video, yes. This is true. I just bring the charm, the smile. The keto artist thinks I can talk in front of groups like nothing. That camera comes out and freezes me up. I just need to go for it. I got to tell you, when I first started taking off and people wanted to have me on television, that first time, I was on a set and there's bright lights and there's cameras everywhere. Literally freaked me out. But at the end of the day, I focused on the interviewer and that got me through it. And I was just myself. I remember my sister-in-law at the time said, wow, you looked like so professional. Like you do that all the time. I'm like, you just got to do it. Like right now, I'm looking at a picture of myself on the iPhone when I'm talking to you. And so that could be a little nerve-wracking because I know I'm live being taped and I'm on simulcast on 2 other cameras right now. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And laugh at yourself. Like take it all in stride. If you flub up your words, I do it all the friggin' time. So it's no big deal. People get that. And it's real. Just be real and people will respond. What's your opinion on the best approach to increasing your followers? What a great question. So, I assume you mean here on Instagram. Obviously, it could be applicable to Facebook or any social media. So, your opinion on the best approach to increasing your followers. Can I tell you the secret? Lean in. You ready? Content. People think they have to do some amazing post and let that one post ride them to building followers, and that post go viral. If you're making a video for YouTube, it's got to go viral and you'll pick up all kind of followers. There's a lot of kids on TikTok now. They're literally doing things for the sole purpose of making it go viral so they pick up more followers. Can I tell you, I never did the SEO optimization when I had a blog. I never did any of those things that were gimmicks. What Jimmy Moore did was consistent, quality, regular content. That's the best way to grow your following. Now, it will be organic. It will have to grow. Try to get on other people's like podcasts. One thing I'm doing on my Instagram page right now is I'm doing these Jimmy Friend Instagram takeover posts. And so I'm able to highlight somebody that has a lot less followers than me. It gives them a boost in their following by doing that. So find people that are doing that and get on their pages and get your name out there a little more. That's a way to grow your following, which, by the way, those people that I highlight on Instagram like that, a lot of their followers then start following me that might not have been following me before. So it's kind of a tit for tat. Both sides get a benefit out of that. And patience. Don't try to hurry it up. All right. I would like to grocery shop and meal prep for people who either don't want to or it's too hard on keto. Beth, that's a great idea. See, you're thinking. And those are all good ideas. You could call it Best Keto Kitchen, something like that. Yeah, go with that. I like that. Yellow-eyed one. My name would be Victoria's Vittles. Can I tell you my initial reaction to that? Vittles makes me think of dog food. So it's ish creative. Vittles is the word that's hanging me up. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but it's definitely hanging me up. Work on that a little more. I think that it's a good concept, but vittles. Okay, I'm going to stop making faces at you. MJ says, my first puppet show was live and I kept saying, can you see the puppets? Can you see the cut puppets? So funny. Don't go live when you're new. No, do that. People love humanity. Like, I think we devalue where everything is slickly produced and it's kind of Hollywood production. I hate listening to podcasts like that, by the way. If there's a podcast that's very slick, you could tell it's been like edited. None of my podcasts are ever edited. The only thing we do is maybe chop off the front and the back, but the middle content, I hardly ever do any editing on my podcast. Why? Because it's real. I remember one time I interviewed Sarah Fragoso in the paleo community, and she had little kids at the time. And I remember one time we were in the middle of talking about her new book, and one of her kids came in, Mommy, I gotta go pee. It was freaking hilarious. Like, everybody listening to that could relate to a mom having to deal with a kid having to go pee, right? So I think we try to believe in our heads that people want this kind of perfect slickness. No, give me the raw quality of real life every single time. Living your authentic life, do you have to be niche in only one aspect of a market, or do you believe you can be successful with a broader focus? I think niche will bring in who your core is, but broader is where you will grow, okay? So when I first started, I was living La Vida low carb, okay? So there was no doubt about it that my niche at the time was low carb. Now, within low carb, as I moved along in my branding and my business, low carb kind of fell a little bit out of favor, but it kind of morphed into a broader market of paleo next. And so a lot of the paleo people were lower in carbs. Some of them, and myself included when I was in the community, were low carb. Then ketogenic came along. Low carb fit within that mold, and keto was the broader one, but still low carb. Same with carnivore. It's no carb, so low carb. And so low carb will always be the core niche that I am, because Live and La Vida Low Carb, I will never change that. That's who I am. But I can make that work within the context of all of these broader ones, and that's a good way to market yourself. All right, let's go over to Facebook. Thank you, Instagram Live. Let's see what Facebook has. I know you guys have lots of ideas for business stuff, so hit them. What you got? Let's see. Hi, Jimmy. I want to reach others with keto, says Shara. I love living this way of life, and I'm a living success story. I would love to start a podcast. I have nowhere to start. So, first of all, are you a good talker? Because if you don't talk well, don't expect to grow an audience. And that sounds a little bit mean, but there's people that do podcasts, they don't know how to talk. And it's sad, because I think even when you've had an incredible story, just because your story is incredible doesn't mean you know how to articulate that story. And so if you do know you talk pretty good, then the next thing to come up with is, what's the premise? What are you going to do? Like whenever I come up with a podcast idea, I always go, okay, what am I trying to do? So after Live and La Vida Low Carb show was successful, the next one I created was called Low Carb Conversations. So the whole premise was me and a co-host would just have conversations about topics within the realm of low carb. And we would look at health headlines, and then we would take topics and we would just jibber jabber back and forth about low carb. So it was a great brand. Then I did Keto Talk. So again, it was kind of the same concept as Low Carb Conversations, talking about keto, looking at questions, headlines, blah, blah, blah. I've done the Keto Hacking MD podcast, where we talked about biohacking within keto, again with a co-host and and then Jimmy Rants became this guy named Jimmy who likes to talk about things and get it out off his mind and share his opinions. So that's the thing. If you want to do this, you kind of have to come up with what's your concept. So that's your first and foremost. Figure out that you know how to talk and articulate what you want to say. What do you want to talk about? What's your angle? How is it different from everybody else out there? Who are you trying to reach with this podcast? So forth and so on. And then come up with a really compelling name that encompasses all of that. You do that, and then you've got the core of what it's going to take to be successful. Justin says, I want to use my story and knowledge of losing 600 pounds to benefit others. Justin, I know your story very well, buddy, that you're so inspiring. I want to inspire, write books, public speak, and coach. I could never get my brand off the ground. My brand was called One Step. Yeah, that's why I didn't get off the ground. You have a unique opportunity, having lost 600 pounds, Justin, to kind of piggyback on another brand that's out there. So there is a brand out there called My 600 Pound Life. I think you could do an offshoot of that. That would be really creative. You could say My 600 Pound Weight Loss or something like that. Play with that a little bit. I had a website where others could sign up to be coached, purchase my books on Amazon, book me for speaking. How do I get this thing going bigger than just small beginnings? It's always going to begin small. And you have such an incredible success story, Justin. You have to probably do something that gets your story out there and goes viral. So I don't know if you've ever thought about maybe hiring someone to put together a video that would be like maybe your story in like 3 to 5 minutes that could be put out on video. It could be a little bit produced just so people know, whoa, look at this guy. So you need them to know who you are. Right now, you're nobody to them because they haven't heard of you before. So what you do is get that one thing that's going to be, it's going to basically be your marketing kit for what you're doing. And then create a brand around it that makes sense. So One Step doesn't tell me what you're about. So work on your branding a little more. It sounds like that's what failed. Now, let me caution you. You talked about public speaking and coaching, be careful of going too commercial too fast. This is where I think a lot of people get into trouble. They create a brand and they immediately think they need to have all these supplements. They need to have coaching services, and for $99.95 a month, you can have access to me to da da da. I think that is the exact wrong model. I think you've got, like I said to Aaron a while ago about his podcast, I think you need to let them know who you are first. You need to let them love you first, trust you first. Before you start pushing anything, you gotta basically curate content and be somebody that they go, okay, they're in it for the right reasons. You say you want to use your story to benefit others. Well, benefit others first with no expectation of any money. By the way, this show here, Jimmy Rants, I've never had a sponsor in the middle of it. Like I could say, this Jimmy Rants brought to you by, I could definitely do something like that. I've kind of avoided that because it's kind of cheesy. Now, if there's a product that I think is cool, I will show it to you, but under no auspices of having to get paid for that. I think people want to see, are you willing to put up good content without any expectation of money? And most of my content is that way. I would say probably 95% of the things I do, I don't have any sponsorship or anything with. Most of what I do is free. And in fact, even the things that have sponsorships attached, you're not obligated to buy anything to listen and access the content. The only thing you have to buy to get the content is my books. And that's because publishing companies don't do those things for free. So just be aware. Don't make money the first object if you truly are wanting to benefit others. If you benefit others, then the money will come. Shara says, I'm putting a cookbook together based on keto travels. I would love to be a part of keto speaking. So the keto speaking part is interesting because a lot of the big conferences are going for the big boy names or the up and comers that they see. So make yourself an up and comer. If you're putting together a cookbook based on keto travels, come up with a creative name. That's going to be your key. I mean, keto travels is kind of generic. So come up with something that would be memorable. This is the biggest thing. Don't be forgettable, because the worst thing you can do in branding is being forgettable. Okay? You want, like, people will hear Livin' La Vida Low Carb, and what's the first thing you think of? It's Jimmy Moore, because the branding is not forgettable. But if you hear health and wellness for life, who the hell is that? It's too damn generic, right? So you want to make sure your branding is so strong and so memorable and so unique that there's no doubt they associate it with your name. Leah, my friend in Australia, speaking of low carb conversations, she took over that podcast when I gave it up. So hello, Leah in Brisbane. Can I reach you by email? I'd love to present some ideas, says Sherry. Yes, if you want to email me, Jimmy, Jimmy, at LLV, as in Victor, LC.com. That stands for Livin' La Vida Low Carb. Jimmy at LLVLC.com. Feel free to email me. I help people all the time with this kind of stuff. So please, if you got ideas and you want to bounce it off of me, I'm more than happy to help. Hello, Mitzi. Thanks for being here. I will buy from people they like, know, and trust, says Sandra, talking about once you build a brand and people trust you, you do. I've had so many people that said, oh my God, I don't buy anything unless you talk about them. And if I don't talk about them, they're like, okay, what's wrong with them, right? So, all right, let's see if we got another one here. Ilza says her province in South Africa is Limpopo, tropical Tanzania. I resonate with life-changing weight loss and regaining health. My family and I are living proof of what's possible. I love the living proof in general, but it doesn't really tell me. That's a tough one, Ilza, because Limpopo, and I'm probably slaughtering how you actually say that, it doesn't roll off the tongue. Like I can say, Livin' La Vida Low Carb, and it just kind of, It just comes out. If I go living proof Limpopo, it's clunky. Play around with it. If you come up with ideas, definitely DM me. I'm happy to help. If you come up with some ideas, I'll go, yeah, that's really good, or no, keep going. All right, so guys, there's another one over here. Sandra said, I just got the URL, the consciousness cure. See, this is the cool thing. Use alliteration. So those of you that aren't English nerds like me, alliteration is where things kind of rhyme within it. When I came up with cholesterol clarity, so you had two C's. And then, of course, then it lent itself to keto clarity. So you had the k. And so that helps. But I like that, the consciousness cure. Looking to host my first summit soon. So that's another thing. Building a brand, just take a chance. Like, you don't know what's going to resonate with people until you put it out there. But the worst thing you can be is boring, bland, and people don't remember you. Always just make it interesting. If you're interesting and memorable, a little bit funny, if that's what you're going for, that's all going to be good. Yellow-eyed one says, I also happen to know that Living Proof is a shampoo company. Well, we can wash that right out of our hair while we're, All right, guys, I hope this branding session, business idea session, podcasting session was good for you. Sharing a little bit of the insights. Can I tell you, I really like talking like business end of things because I've been very successful and very fortunate in my life. I always thought I had great potential within me to do what I do now, but I never knew I could do what I do now until I went out on my own. And so it could be that you make that executive decision in your head and your heart that this is something you want to pursue. If you want to push all in on your own dreams, it's tough. Let me tell you, that was one of the toughest decisions in October of 2006 when I decided to go out full time. I didn't even have my podcast yet. I started my podcast the week after I quit my job, October 2006. And I started the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. Episode 1 aired just days after that. And it was so scary, you guys, because all that comfort of a regular job, the assurance that money would come in, people like that. But that's what keeps people stuck in a job they hate. And even before this coronavirus thing hit, a lot of people were in jobs they hate. Like, I think I saw some statistic recently that 80% of the people hate their job. Now, if that many people hate their job, why ain't we going to try to figure something else out, right? So it's one reason I wanted to come on here today. Maybe this is your impetus. This is your virtual kick in the tootie. Okay? To get going with whatever that idea is, whatever that dream is. It's possible. I'm not going to say it's easy. I made no money of significance in my first 5 years. Now, I think it's going to happen a lot faster for people that start now than when I started. I started 2006. I didn't start really kind of making money that would, really be more than just the bare minimums until about 2011. Then when I got my book deal in 2012 and my books started coming out, and then Keto Clarity was a humongous hit, international bestseller, before I made money. So that was 5 years ago when I made kind of money of consequence from that. And so you got to be patient with this. But if it's worth it to you, if this is your passion, if it's your heart, don't make money your primary goal, or you will get discouraged very, very quickly. Sandra said, this has been my message since coronavirus has kept us inside. Use this time to reinvent yourself. It's one reason I am doing this Jimmy Rants today. Leah says, sage advice. Thank you, Leah. I have done this a while, and I try to help people all the time. Ilza says, why do you use Instagram Live? I mostly use my Facebook Live. Is it better? I like Instagram. Facebook, but if you're on Facebook, you know this already. Facebook has gotten ugly and disastrous in all the ways. Um, Instagram's getting there, and I know Instagram's owned by Facebook, but they do a little more freedom here. I like kind of the tools involved with the live, with the stories, with the posts, with IGTV. There's just so many tools here. I know they're trying to incorporate it on Facebook. I just don't like Facebook has just gotten really weird. And I don't get as much engagement in Facebook as I do Instagram. So that's why I choose to do Instagram Live. Of course, then I curate this content by saving, when this video is done, I save it to my camera roll. Then I send it to my producer, who then uploads it to YouTube for me. He uploads it to jimmyrants.com. And then we also air content on my Living La Vida Low Carb Show podcast. So if you're going to do a branding thing, try to repurpose content so you get the live here, you get it on replay here. I've got the simulcast on Facebook Live. We put it up on YouTube. We put it on jimmyrants.com. We air audio over on the Living La Vida Low Carb Show. You see how one bit of content becomes this explosion of content all over the place. And that's another way that you grow and spread your message as well. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. If you want to engage live in the content, go follow me. I'm over on Instagram Live at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live and check out all the content live. It is up for 24 hours on Instagram, but we do throw it up on YouTube pretty quick when we're done. It's also at jimmyrants.com. Over on YouTube, just type in keyword Jimmy Rants. We're also youtube.com/Livin' Low Carb Man. And then, tomorrow's episode of the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show on Tuesday, I'm airing 3 of the audio of some of the recent Jimmy Rants episodes that I did. Really good content we did lately, so we're kind of like back to backing 3 of the best episodes. So go check that out as well, llvlc.com. Well, thanks for being here, you guys. Until next time, we'll see you then. All right.